Why do we feel so hollow, even when we've done everything right? You wake up before the sun, you answer every email, you hit every deadline. You smile on Zoom, laugh at the right times, nod with tired eyes. You go home, you eat, you scroll, you sleep, and yet something inside you is quietly breaking. There's a silence behind the smile, a kind of ache that doesn't scream. It hums, constant, low, like a machine running in the background, draining your energy. It's not depression in the clinical sense. It's not burnout, not entirely. It's something deeper. A quiet question scratching at your insides. Is this really all there is? In a world saturated with convenience, automation, and digital connection, why do we feel more disconnected than ever? From ourselves, from each other, from meaning. We were promised progress, but all we got was speed. Faster delivery, faster promotions, faster internet, faster everything. But the faster we move, the less we feel, the less we are. Modern life is a performance. We perform confidence, we perform gratitude, we perform ambition, all while quietly mourning a version of ourselves we don't even remember losing. You weren't born empty. That emptiness was taught to you. It started slowly, when your curiosity was replaced by productivity, when your imagination became a resume, when your play turned into hustle, when what do you want to be became how will you earn, and so you became a cog, a highly efficient, overqualified, emotionally exhausted cog in a machine that never stops. You smile, you work, you achieve, and yet you feel like a ghost inside your own life. Alienation. That's the word Marx gave it. The feeling of being a stranger in your own world, disconnected from the products of your labor, disconnected from the purpose of your work, disconnected from your fellow human beings, because everything becomes a transaction. Alienation is not just economic, it's spiritual, existential. It's the dull pain of living in a society that measures your worth by your output, not your humanity. And so we numb ourselves, with endless scrolling, with convenience, with caffeine, with consumption, with curated identities that don't feel like ours. We chase dopamine because we've forgotten what true joy feels like. Capitalism didn't steal your soul. It slowly convinced you that you didn't have one. It sold you the myth of individual failure, that if you feel empty, it's your fault, that you just need to try harder, wake up earlier, meditate more, hustle smarter. But what if the real sickness isn't in you, but in the system that surrounds you? What if your emptiness is not a personal defect, but a political symptom? What if the silence behind your smile is not something to fix, but something to listen to? That silence is not your enemy, it is your compass, pointing toward the parts of you that the system has tried to silence. Your wonder, your rage, your tenderness, your longing for something real. In that silence lives the beginning of your awakening. Have you ever felt like your life no longer belongs to you? You wake up, not because you're rested, but because your alarm demands it. You drink your coffee, not for pleasure, but to become functional. You open your laptop not with purpose, but because there's work waiting. Always work waiting. And then the cycle begins. Meetings, deadlines, tasks, metrics, numbers on a screen that decide your value. You move from hour to hour like a ghost in daylight, alive but not living, awake but not present. They told you freedom was choosing your career, but you were never told that your choice would be between survival and starvation, between burnout and bankruptcy. You chose yes. But what kind of freedom is it when the alternative is homelessness? This is not freedom. It's a glass cage, one that lets the light in, but never lets you out. Productivity is the religion of our time, and you are both the worshiper and the sacrifice. Your time is no longer yours, your energy, your body, your attention, all monetized. You sell your hours to survive, while someone else buys yachts with the profit of your exhaustion. That's the paradox. The harder you work, the more someone else gains. The more efficient you become, the less secure your life gets. You are optimized into irrelevance. This is alienation. Karl Marx saw it clearly. The worker is separated from the product of their labor. You make things you don't own. You serve systems you didn't build. You fulfill visions that are not yours. And in that process, you begin to forget who you are. You're not building your life. You're maintaining someone else's empire. Your creativity reduced to KPIs. Your dreams measured in quarterly growth. Your human need for rest, connection, expression deemed unproductive. So we begin to internalize the machine. We guilt ourselves for not being productive enough. We apologize for needing rest. We hustle until our souls are numb. You were never meant to be a machine. But you've been trained to believe that being one is noble. They celebrate your grind, your sacrifices, your hustle. But behind every celebration is a transaction, your labor for their gain, your exhaustion for their profit. The worst part? You begin to believe it's your fault. That if you feel trapped, it's because you're not managing your time well. That if you feel lost, you just need a better routine. That if you're exhausted, you're just not disciplined enough. But what if the routine is the prison? What if the system was never built to serve you, but to use you? You are not broken for feeling tired. You are not lazy for wanting rest. You are not lost for craving meaning. You are human, in a system that treats humanity as inefficient. This is not a personal failure. It's a structural design. The cage was built slowly, with student loans, rising rents, healthcare bills, and the myth of opportunity. It was built to keep you moving, but never arriving. And the key? It's not in productivity hacks or morning routines. It's in remembering that your value is not measured in output, that your life is not a spreadsheet, that your soul is not a brand. The first step out of the cage is to see it for what it truly is. Why does everything we buy lose its magic so quickly? You've felt it, that brief thrill when the package arrives, the soft glow of anticipation, the promise that maybe this thing, this time, will make life feel fuller, brighter, more complete. And for a moment it does. But the glow fades, the novelty wears off, the shoes go back in the closet, the gadget collects dust. The new phone feels like the old phone, so we chase again. Not because we're greedy, but because we're starving. For meaning, for connection, for wholeness. Capitalism doesn't just sell products. It sells dreams. It sells identities. It sells belonging. You're not buying clothes. You're buying confidence. You're not buying a car. You're buying status. You're not buying a latte. You're buying self-care. We're taught to consume not to satisfy needs, but to fix our insecurities, to fill the emotional gaps that the system itself created. And the system is brilliant at this. It creates the wound, then sells the bandage. You feel inadequate? There's a supplement for that. You feel lonely? There's an app for that. You feel lost? There's a self-help book, a podcast, a course, just $99. But nothing ever heals. Because these products don't solve the root. They distract us from it, they numb the hunger, they wrap it in packaging and branding and dopamine hits. Marx called this commodity fetishism, when objects become sacred. When we give things emotional power they don't truly have. When relationships are replaced with purchases. When experiences are reduced to transactions. In this world, everything becomes a product. Even you. Your image on social media? Curated, marketed, monetized. Your time for sale, your attention, auctioned to the highest bidder. You are both consumer and consumed, and so we live in a constant state of anticipation, always waiting for the next thing, the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next hit of temporary satisfaction. It's not just the economy, it's your entire reality being shaped by the logic of the marketplace. And what gets lost in all this? Stillness, depth, intimacy, the slow, quiet things that make life real. You don't need more stuff, you need more truth. But truth doesn't trend, it doesn't go viral, it doesn't generate revenue. So instead you're offered substitutes, pretty, convenient, profitable illusions. We were promised happiness through ownership, but what we got was addiction through consumption. Because when meaning is missing, we'll try to buy it. Again. and again. And when that doesn't work, we blame ourselves. But you are not failing. The system is. A system that taught you to seek identity through things. That trained you to believe that fulfillment could be delivered in 48 hours with free shipping. It's a lie. And deep down, you've always known. The way your heart sinks after the excitement fades. The way your hands keep scrolling, even though you feel emptier with every swipe. The way your closet overflows, but your spirit feels bare. You are not broken. You are reacting to a world that replaces connection with convenience, community with branding, and soul with style. And still, a part of you remains untouched. That part of you that knows no product can replace presence, that no advertisement can give you identity, that your worth was never meant to be bought. That part of you, the real you, is waiting to be remembered. What if everything you've been taught about success was a lie? You've been told to work hard, to stay positive, to chase your dreams, that if you just grind enough, believe enough, sacrifice enough, it'll all pay off. But here's the question they never want you to ask. Who does it really pay off for? Because while you chase stability, someone else collects dividends. While you burn out in silence, someone else celebrates quarterly growth. While you question your worth, someone else profits from your doubt. You were taught the system is fair, that everyone starts with the same chance, that failure is personal, that suffering is weakness, that your exhaustion is your fault. But what if none of that is true? What if the system isn't broken, but functioning exactly as it was designed? Karl Marx called this the power of ideology, the invisible script that runs through every institution, every classroom, every screen. It's the story we're fed from birth, that capitalism rewards talent, that freedom means choosing what to buy, that hard work leads to happiness. But ideology doesn't just mislead, it blinds. It makes exploitation look like opportunity. It makes inequality seem natural. It makes alienation feel like a personal shortcoming, instead of what it really is, a structural weapon. This is false consciousness, when we internalize the logic of the system so deeply that we no longer see it. We blame ourselves for the pain the system creates. You don't get the job? You weren't good enough. You can't afford healthcare? Should have worked harder. You're anxious and burnt out? Try meditating.
But what if the real problem isn't you? It's the cage you've been trained not to see. You were never meant to question the system, just to survive inside it. Schools teach obedience, not critical thinking. Workplaces reward compliance, not creativity. Media floods your mind with images of success you're never meant to reach. And when the illusion starts to crack, when your soul starts whispering that something is wrong, the system offers distractions, a new show, a new product,
a motivational speaker telling you to hustle harder. But maybe what you need is not more hustle. Maybe what you need is clarity, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The way profit is extracted from your exhaustion, the way your identity is shaped by marketing, the way you are always made to feel not enough, so you'll keep buying, keep working, keep chasing. The system depends on your confusion, your silence, your self-blame. But now, you are beginning to see. You are beginning to remember that this isn't just about economics. It's about dignity. It's about humanity. It's about reclaiming your mind from the stories that keep you small. The most radical act you can do in a system built on delusion is to wake up. Not to a new job or a new product or a new productivity hack, but to the truth that your suffering is not personal, it's political. And once you realize that, everything changes. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, who benefits from me feeling this way? You were not born to be a machine. You were born with curiosity, with softness, with fire. You were born to build, to love, to question, to create. But somewhere along the way, the system taught you to forget. It trained you to see yourself not as a person, but as a tool, a resource, a brand, a line item on a spreadsheet. It taught you that rest is laziness, that doubt is weakness, that your value lives in your productivity, But that's a lie. And the truth? It's been buried beneath the noise, beneath the schedules and the screens and the slogans, beneath the performance. But it's still there. Maybe you feel it when the world goes quiet and your body finally exhales. Maybe you hear it in a song that brings you to tears, and you don't know why. Maybe it whispers to you when you're alone and there's no one to impress. That's you, the real you, trying to come back. The part of you that remembers life before the grind, before the pressure, before your worth was tied to output. The part that knows joy for its own sake, connection for its own sake. Rest, not as a reward, but as a right. Karl Marx once wrote, "In a higher phase of communist society, the enslaving subordination of the individual to the division of labor has vanished." That's what's been stolen, wholeness. You were never meant to be split into roles, titles, functions. You were meant to be fully human, complex, imperfect, whole. But capitalism requires fragments. It needs you divided into worker, consumer, follower, profile. It needs you fragmented so you'll keep reaching outside yourself for what can only be found within. So how do you begin to remember? You start by questioning, by listening to the discomfort instead of numbing it, by sitting with the silence behind the smile and asking what it wants to say. You start by reclaiming time. Not every hour, but a moment, a breath, a space where you're not performing. You start by telling the truth to yourself and to others, that you're tired, that you're lost, that you're angry, that you want something real. This isn't about quitting your job tomorrow or rejecting every comfort. It's about waking up, seeing the system clearly, refusing to blame yourself for what was never your fault, and then, slowly, gently, beginning to rebuild. Rebuilding how you relate to others, how you speak to yourself, how you define success. Rebuilding not as a brand, but as a human being. Because beneath all the noise, all the demands, all the illusions, you are still there. You are not your title. You are not your salary. You are not your productivity. You are a person, alive, awake, worthy, even now. And maybe that's where freedom begins, not in escape, but in remembrance. What if the emptiness you feel is actually a signal? What if it's not a flaw, but a message from the parts of you that capitalism tried to bury? What if your exhaustion is sacred? What if your longing for more is proof that you were meant for something deeper? You are not a malfunction. You are not a mistake. You are a mirror reflecting the sickness of a system that devalues the soul. And that system, it thrives on your silence, on your shame, on your forgetting. But now, you remember. The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas. Karl Marx. Now you see how those ideas have shaped you, how they've made you blame yourself for a system that was never designed for your well-being. But here's the quiet revolution. You don't have to play the role anymore. You can stop, breathe, question, connect. You can begin, not perfectly, but honestly, to live from the center of your being, not the margins of a machine. This is not the end. This is the beginning. A new kind of freedom starts when you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What's been done to me?" If this spoke to something inside you, if it put words to the silence you've carried, leave a comment, share your truth, and subscribe for the next video, because this isn't just a channel, it's a rebellion of the soul.